Hello again, fight fans, and welcome to episode 296 of the Neutral Corner Boxing Podcast. Welcome to 2022, the first TNC of the new year, and Happy New Year to all of you out there in the boxing universe. This is TNC 296 for the week of January 15th. I am your host, Michael Montero, for Ring Magazine, the Ring digital YouTube channel where you're watching me right now, and ringtv.com, our glorious website, the best in the biz. You guys can see me holding up the 100-year anniversary issue. Tons of good stuff in this. Definitely a collector's item. Our new issue about to drop, the March 2022 issue, that's going to have all of the year-end awards, the best of 2021. And a reminder to some of you guys out there that the year-end awards, the best of, that is a democratic process, how all that stuff is chosen, right? So I don't necessarily agree with all of our winners. I may have picked a different fight, a different fighter, whatever it is, for various awards, but it's a democratic process, just like our ratings. And so that it is what it is, right? I've posted, I think, on my Twitter and stuff like that over the holidays who I think the best of 2021 was, and all that good stuff. If you guys want to talk about that today, we can. And in the coming weeks, we could talk about that too, because the schedule is kind of light, right? So you guys may disagree with some of our winners. I disagree with some of our winners, but that's part of the beauty of this thing. We get to argue it out, right? All right. A couple of you guys already up in the chat. It's awesome. I want to just say Happy New Year to you guys once more. It's great to be back. It's funny, man. It's only been a few weeks, but it feels like it's been an eternity. Like I kind of forgot some of the steps as I was setting up here. I'm like, okay, I got to do this. I got to do that. It's like, shit, you kind of forget, man. Muscle memory will start to kick in and then you're okay. Before I get into news and notes, I want to share some super exciting news with you guys related to Kronk. I'm going to have a bunch of news with Kronk Gym throughout this year. Okay. I'm partnering up with those guys. There's just a lot of exciting news coming up in the April issue of The Ring. I'll have a feature story there talking about the new Kronk Gym that's just outside of the city limits of Detroit right now, and what they're doing. But Kronk gear, a bunch of you guys have asked about this. You saw me tweet out last month a picture of me in a red Kronk muscle tee working out, and a lot of you guys are like, yo, where do I get that shit? So I told you, sit back and wait, because I'm working on getting a promo code for you. Well, I got it. So let me show you. I'm going to pull up the Ring site here. This is kronksports.com. All right. KRONK sports.com. If you go to their site, this is the official Kronk Gym in Detroit, Michigan site. You click on shop. You'll see the products. Now, right now, you only see a handful of products here, right? That's changing. They just ordered a bunch of stuff that's coming. In fact, let me read to you what they got coming. They got muscle shirts coming in red, the one you guys saw me with, but also white, gold, and blue. They got awesome-ass Kronk gym bags. The Kronk gym bags are dope, seriously. They've got small and large of the gym bags coming in. They got Kronk jackets. The jackets are awesome. And then they got Kronk baseball hats. They're working on getting some other stuff. So the Kronk store is going to be updated here very soon. Now, when you guys see something that you want, okay, and first, I need to mention this. You see the little note here on the website. Purchases from other sites are not affiliated with Kronk Boxing and do not support youth. What does that mean? Well, you guys have seen there's a million different Kronk, quote-unquote, websites and social media profiles out there. They're all fake, okay? The actual Kronk gear from the actual Kronk Gym off the actual Kronk site goes to support their youth development program, which is a big part of the article that I wrote that's coming up in the April issue of The Ring. There's a huge new youth development push at Ring. So at Kronk. They merged with an existing gym in Detroit that had this great youth development program that was put on by Jeff Stiers. He's a former fighter out of Detroit, turned businessman, extremely successful businessman, started his own gym just outside of Detroit where he grew up, in the little town where he grew up, on the outskirts of town. and started this awesome youth development program. And the folks at Old School Kronk wanted to be a part of that. So they basically merged, and they're going to take this new gym is going to take the Kronk name, and they're going to take this brand really worldwide, but they're going to start here nationwide. There's going to be different branches of the gym coming to different parts of the country. And the focus is going to be youth development, starting with community service, with, of course, academics, working with mentors, working with teachers before these kids even get into a boxing ring. Okay. It's so amazing. It's so cool. It's so inspiring. And it's so Detroit. I freaking love it. But all the money from the sales of the gear off the Kronk site go to fund this program, okay? So I'm going to make a hard push for this. Now, you guys know I don't do ads on this show. I don't do them. I've turned down multiple opportunities to do sponsorships on this show. If I ever share a product with you guys or anything, it's because I believe in it. It's because I use it. If I ever share a website or anything like that, it's because I believe in what the folks there are doing, okay? Obviously, I'm a big believer in Kronk, not just for the historical significance and the fighters and all that, but specifically the youth development piece. It's so necessary, maybe more now than ever in our country, but especially in a place like Detroit, but really all over the place. With everything going on with the pandemic, COVID, unemployment, record inflation right now, everything, right? This shit's important. So if you want to get some Kronk gear, I'm going to show you what to do. Let's say you want to get the official training tee here, this yellow tee, right? Nice and handsome. You click on that, boom. You pick what size you want, large. Okay, cool. When you go to pay or add to bag, so now you've put this in your bag, right? So now you got this in your bag, and you can check out and all that good stuff. Let's view our bag. There's a spot here for a coupon code. All you got to do is type in Montero. All right. Apply a coupon. Boom. Coupon code applied successfully. You got your 10% off. Now, if you're ordering a ton of gear for you, your kids, your family, your friends, whatever, you might have $200-300 worth of stuff here. That 10% is going to come in handy. All right. All you got to do is type in my name, Montero. Boom, you get 10% off. All right. So this is an awesome deal that they're doing. And, you know, when I was writing that piece and I was talking to John Lepak, who's the new business manager of the new Kronk, a Detroit guy, awesome freaking dude. You know, he was talking about Kronk gear and stuff like that. And I was telling him, hey, man, before I start pushing this stuff and talking about it with my listeners, I'd like to get a discount code because I like to kind of do that as an introductory thing where you can get people checking out the site. And they're working on getting the clothes. They're working on getting the new gear. You guys know there's supply chain issues right now. And we just got off the holidays and this whole COVID variant thing that's, you know, kind of got everything stalled. Okay. So the gear should be there by now. It's not their fault. All right. It's out of their hands. There's a lot of supply chain stuff going on. So please be patient. But there's a ton of new awesome gear coming. But if you want some of that classic gear I just showed you guys on the site, you get 10% off. All you got to do is type in Montero, boom, and you're helping kids. You're helping kids that need help. Pretty freaking awesome, right? So I just wanted to start the show with that, and we'll be talking a lot about that, of course. And as I've mentioned before, we're going to have folks from the Kronk gym, different people involved with it on the show this year. I'm just going to make a hard push because what they're doing is freaking awesome. And I can't wait to get up there. They're trying to do an event up there in late March, maybe an amateur show or something like that, actually at the gym where some of the kids will fight. Maybe I can get up there for that. We'll have to see, depending on how some things go here with me and my wife and our work schedules and all that. If I can get up there, I'll share everything I can with you guys and maybe do some live videos from up there and everything here on our, whether it's on Ring's channel or over on my personal channel. Okay. So just keep that in the back of your mind. All right. And remember, if you want to grab some Kronk gear, get the 10% off, man. 10% off is 10% off, right? Okay. Let's get into news and notes. Couple things to talk about real quick. And then we got a little bit of things to review, a little bit to preview, not a whole hell of a lot. It's not going to be a super loaded show. But the schedule's off to a slow start. But hey, it is what it is. But if you guys want to call in, give me about 20 minutes or so. We can chat a little bit and we'll chop it up. All right. But let's do these news and notes. Okay. So let's start off with some sad news. I just want to give my condolences. We actually had a couple of deaths in the boxing community over the weekend. I want to say rest in peace to Martin Card, who ran the Boxing Archive Twitter profile. A lot of you guys followed that profile. I know I did. I interacted with him a lot. It was pretty awesome. He posted a bunch of historical stuff from boxing's wonderful, rich, colorful history that we have. And he was very passionate about it. He ran that Boxing Archive Twitter profile for a long time. Martin Acard. And he passed away over the weekend. So keep him in your thoughts, a member of the boxing Twitter universe. He also had other social media profiles, of course, but Twitter is where I'm most active on boxing social, and that's where I interacted the most with him. Also, a boxer out of Russia, Arest Sakyan, died after being in a coma, actually, for 10 days after suffering injuries in a fight December 26th that he fought in, I believe, over there in Russia, and was KO'd. He finally succumbed to his injuries and passed away. So I wanted to mention those deaths, and just, guys, remember that, for fighters in the ring, obviously this is a very dangerous sport, but even for those of us who are just observers and fans, weekend warriors, all of us, guys like Martin who are just passionate about the sport, life happens, right? We've all have had family members and friends and, pass away, and things recently. You guys know my story with my brother. So I just try to just mention this so you guys can keep these folks and their families in your thoughts. Okay. All right. Callum Johnson was set to face Joe Smith. About this last week. Total buzzkill. He gets the COVID. He's got the Omicron, right? I guess everyone's getting the cron. And basically you sneeze a little bit and you're a little stuffed up for a few days, but apparently they're canceling fights over it. I don't quite understand it. I know, don't shit all down my throat. COVID bros, I get it. But let's be honest, this variant doesn't seem to be anywhere near as deadly as previous variants. Callum Johnson, of course, is okay, but because of this, he is out of the fight with Joe Smith Jr., which I'll preview Joe's fight. He's still fighting Saturday against the replacement opponent, Steve Geffrard. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I've never heard of him, so if I'm not pronouncing your name correctly, I apologize. But we'll preview that later on. But obviously, we wish Callum the quick, speedy recovery, which we know he'll have, like the other 99.99% of us. Okay, good news. Some fights coming. Well, actually, you know what? This is hot off the press. I just tweeted about this. There's another COVID delay. Thankfully, they're doing the right thing and just delaying this fight because it's such a good matchup. Jose Pedraza, he got the cron too. So his fight with Jose Ramirez has been postponed to, it was supposed to take place in February. It's getting pushed back to March 4th in Fresno, California, which is, of course, where Ramirez is from. So why does that weekend sound familiar? This is Friday, March 4th, because Saturday, March 5th, the best fight on the schedule in quarter one is taking place also in California, in San Diego, between Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez and Juan Francisco Estrada. Their third fight, the rubber match, is going to take place at the Pechanga Arena in San Diego. So March 4th in Northern California, March 5th in Southern California. Two fantastic matchups. One's going to be on ESPN Plus. The other will be on DAZN. But so they're both streaming fights. But I say it all the time, and people get really mad that ain't from that state. But California really does run boxing. It really, really does. The two best fights on the schedule in the first quarter, make it a great weekend of boxing taking place in Killa, Cali. All that being said, I'm glad I got the fuck out when I did. Also, off the rumor mill, Canelo Alvarez. They're talking about him fighting Jermall Charlo possibly at 168. Now, would I like to see this fight? Of course. I'd love to see it. It'd be a fantastic fight. It'd be a quantum leap in opposition for Charlo, and it'd be an interesting style matchup for Canelo. Charlo would pose some interesting style issues for him. all that being said, I will believe it when I see it. I don't want to spend 20 minutes breaking down the possibility of this fight and how the fighters match up when it's possibly just a typical smoke and mirrors, bait and switch bullshit that promoters do while negotiating the real fight behind the scenes, right? They use this smoke screen shit to get people talking on social, and they're really negotiating something completely different behind the scenes. So I don't want to talk too much about that. Obviously, if it did happen at 168, I like that fight a lot. I think it'd be very, very entertaining. For what it's worth, I think Caleb Plant also called out Jermall Charlo. And I got to say, I'd probably rather see Charlo and Plant fight because their resumes are more comparable and they deserve each other more. Plant didn't deserve the Canelo fight, but he did, and he got that fight. He lost. He got his big payday. Now Charlo wants his. He knows Golovkin's not going to fight him this year. So I don't blame him for calling out Canelo, and maybe they're really talking. Maybe they'll really do it. But all things being equal, I'd rather see Canelo fight. I've talked about this before. David Benavidez. I'd rather see him fight Dimitri Bivol. Any of the guys at light heavyweight. I'd rather see those fights. I'd rather see Charlo and Plant fight each other. Charlo and Andrade fight each other, right? That's the kind of fights I want to see because I'm old school like that. I want to see guys earn it. All right. Let me jump over to the comments here before we get into the review preview. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Oh, a couple of you guys asked about the code. It's just Montero. I see Nacho got back on the chat. What's up, Nacho? Yeah. So for those of you who just getting on, if you go to kronksports.com, click on their shop, look at their merchandise. If you want to buy stuff, and everything that you buy off Kronk's site goes to the youth development program. It's awesome, the work that they're doing with kids. And you guys can read about that in my piece coming up in the April issue of The Ring. And I'll be talking about it and having those guys on the show and all that good stuff. But they just ordered a bunch of new gear that's coming to the site. So in the coming weeks, go back there, check it out. But when you're checking out on the site, just type in Montero and apply for a coupon code, and boom, you get 10% off. All right. Captain Hook Chronicles said, thanks for Martin. Great guy. Yes. Yeah. And I really enjoyed his profile. Really, really enjoyed his profile, man. He posted a lot of interesting stuff. Kobatsuda says, Happy New Year, Mike. Happy New Year to you. Thank you very much. Twal says, Canelo will eat Charlo for breakfast and still be hungry. Yeah, even Chris Bergen, he says, easy work for Canelo. I hear you guys. I hear you, but Papa Chubby says the same thing. Canelo will smash him. I don't know, guys. I think that, look, man, Caleb Plant was competitive. I don't think he won more than 2 rounds, but he was at least competitive for the first half of the fight. I think Charlo would be too. Charlo's a harder puncher, even though he comes, he started at 54. Even at 54, he was a harder puncher than Plant is at 68. So definitely a more explosive, harder puncher. He'll at least be able to get some respect from Canelo. I think it's a competitive fight, at least through the first half. But yeah, in the second half, Canelo takes over. Likely goes the distance, but a possible late stoppage. I can see that happening too. So I don't know about this easy work thing. I don't know. I don't think the Charlos are easy work for anybody. Torian Fox says they should just do a PBC round robin for the right to fight Canelo. Yeah. Well, remember when Canelo was talking about fighting that cruiserweight fight, and everyone was like, oh, man, this is genius. Because while he's doing that, PBC is going to have a round robin. It's like, no, they're not. They should, but they should have been doing that for 5 years now. Glenn from Australia on the chat. He says, morning from Sydney, Australia. Happy New Year. Awesome, brother. Good morning to you. And stay safe out there in Australia. Some crazy things going on in that country right now. Co says, do you think Bradis can KO Canelo? Yeah, probably. Bradis, Usyk, guys like that probably could. But do I think that Makabu and guys like that would? No, I just don't think so. Taurine says, Charlo power is sapped. He couldn't knock out Juan Montiel. Yeah, wasn't the best performance from him. But, you can't judge a fighter based on one performance. That being said, Charlo's middleweight resume, not very good. Not very good, to put it mildly. Super chat pledge from Chris Bergen. Thank you so much, my man. He says, what do you think about Matchroom's cards in Q1? So yeah, Matchroom Boxing released their schedule, which is synonymous, I guess, with the Zone. I like some of them. Some of the matchups that people completely shit on, I think, are kind of underrated, but none of them jumped out to me like, wow, this is outstanding. You know, like the best matchup, obviously, of the whole first quarter is the third fight between Gonzalez and Estrada. But yeah, overall, it's decent. It's like some people were completely shitting all over it, saying it was absolute trash. It's not, honestly, it's not really much worse than what the other promoters are putting out in the first quarter and the other platforms. So I wish, let me see if I can pull it up on Twitter real quick, because they had a graphic. Let me see if I can pull. If I can't find it real quick, then I'll just move on. But I wanted to see, because they did tweet out like a graphic of all their fights. Yeah, let me just show this real quick. And of course, this isn't just Matchroom. Oh, so Golden Boy announced their lineup. Let me share this real quick, and then I'll get to Matchroom stuff. Damn it. There we go. All right. Can you guys see this? Yes, you can. Okay. So Vargas versus Smith, Jacobs versus Ryder, Munguia versus Ballard. These are okay matchups. Martinez and Warrington too. That's interesting. Wood and Conlon, I think, will be fun because of the style matchup there. But obviously, again, I mean, the prime, the premier attraction here is Estrada Chocolatito 3. So this is Matchroom, Golden Boy, and the Zone. I like some of these, but like I'm not salivating like, oh my God, this is amazing. But then again, everyone that was just shitting all over this, look, man, when Vargas and Smith fight, it's going to be competitive. When Jacobs and Ryder fight, that's probably going to be competitive too. The Munguia Ballard fight doesn't interest me that much, because I think all Jaime Munguia's team is doing is kind of keeping him in a safe type of matchup right now, while he sits back and waits on the bigger fish. Like I've been telling you guys, the Munguia's team really wants to fight Golovkin. And if Golovkin gets past Murata, the biggest money fight at 160, don't shoot the messenger, but the biggest money fight at 160 would be Triple G Munguia, because of the money, that the Mexican TV money and everything else that would come in. Globally, a fight between Golovkin and Munguia, which would be for 2 world titles, mind you, if Golovkin beats Murata later this year, let's say around September or something, Triple G and Munguia fight, that's a bigger fight than Triple G fighting Charlo or Triple G fighting Andrade. Globally, maybe not in America, but globally, it is what it is. Don't shoot the messenger. So I think Munguia and his people are kind of waiting on that. So that's what I see with the Ballard fight. All right, let's jump into this review. So we actually had some fights over the holidays. I'm not going to spend too long talking about this, but PBC had that New Year's Day pay-per-view, which apparently sold about 20-something thousand pay-per-view buys. That's pretty much where I thought it would land. You think about, let's do the quick numbers. What is it? It was what, $40 times 20,000? I guess maybe we'll say 25,000 to be friendly. I'm going to type this in the old calculator because I can't do math here right now. But if it was $40 times 20, let's give it 25,000. 40 times 25,000. That's a cool million. Okay. And by the way, half of that million goes to Fox. Was it Fox or Showtime? I can't even fucking remember. But they get half of that. So that's $500,000 that was split between, pretty much the main event got the most of that, right? But it was whacked up. And then ticket sales were not very good. So that card had to lose money. Oh, that had to lose money, because those heavyweights were making more than $100,000. I know at least Luis Ortiz was. He wasn't fighting for small money. And there was a lot of maybe foreign TV money that came into play and everything else. But that's rough, man. That's rough. Anyway, Luis Ortiz, TKO 6 win over Charles Martin. Ortiz was down twice before stopping Martin, which is crazy. And I tweeted after I think it was the day after, it might have been Sunday, where I tweeted something to the effect of, Charles Martin is Luis Ortiz's best win. And then I went down this whole thing and basically talked about how Ortiz is Deontay Wilder's best win. And he was beating him in their 2 fights before Wilder's power and Ortiz's age and lack of stamina bailed him out. And oh boy, did that trigger people. And also, a lot of people liked it because it kind of went viral. It had hundreds of likes and retweets and all this, hundreds of thousands of impressions. But boy, did it trigger people. And I had a bunch of people calling me all sorts of nasty things. And oh my gosh. But also, more than anything, a lot of people were saying, man, Bryant Jennings is Luis Ortiz's best win. For the record, I agree. And those of you who watch this show, you've always heard me say that Luis Ortiz's best win is Bryant Jennings coming off a loss, right? How many times have you guys heard me say that? Probably 1,000, because I love to repeat shit. But in the context of that tweet, and I should have used better words, I get it, but why I mentioned Charles Martin is, first of all, it just happened, so it was relevant. But second, like it or not, Charles Martin is a former world title holder. So in terms of Luis Ortiz's biggest accomplishment on paper as a professional boxer, his best win in terms of the most accomplished opponent he defeated, Charles Martin is his best win in that regard. Now, I can't lay it all out in a tweet. You get only a certain amount of characters, but you guys follow what I'm saying, right? In terms of head-to-head best fighter he beat, yes, Bryant Jennings. Bryant Jennings would beat Charles Martin. Would have beat him back then, would beat him now, okay? However, Charles Martin's a former world title holder. Charles Martin has made 7 figures in this business, right? When he sold that title to Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua, it was how many million? 5 million or something. He got a ridiculous amount of money to sell him that title and flop and, give it up, because he got hit a few times, but it's not like he was really knocked out, right? He knew it was up and he basically said, I'm going to stay down for this second time because I think it got dropped twice. But anyway, he is the most accomplished fighter that Luis Ortiz has defeated, technically speaking, as a professional fighter. And that's what I was hinting to in that tweet. And it was all just to kind of show you guys the round robin and the in-house protection program that they've kind of had going over at PBC in the heavyweight division. Now, it's made for some very fun fights. Deontay Wilder can't be in a shit fight. He's always in fun fights. I enjoy watching him fight. But him and all the guys that he fought, while there were these other heavyweights that I think were better on other sides of the street, yes, it made for some fun fights. And Wilder ultimately iced a lot of these guys, killed them with his right hand, highlight reel knockouts. But we were being told that this dude was the hardest puncher in boxing history and stuff like that. And I'm not going to go down that road for the millionth time. I'm just saying it's all relative. And Luis Ortiz, now maybe he's past his prime, okay? But even at his best, when he fought Deontay the first time and the second time, he was beating him worse in the rematch before he got knocked out, right? That version of Ortiz, if he fights Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, even Joseph Parker, even Dillian White, even the best version of Derek Chisora, and others, Alexander Povetkin, others, I can keep going, even Kubrat Pulev. Are you guys confident he whoops all those fighters? Are you confident he beats even half of them? I'm not. I'd favor more than half of those guys to beat Luis Ortiz on his best night. So, yeah, some of them, I would favor Ortiz. Let me back up. But all in all, it's just putting things in perspective. All right, I'll stop talking about that. Also on this card, Frank Sanchez gets a unanimous decision win over Christian Hammer. Frank Sanchez is a skilled heavyweight, will pose a challenge to some guys stylistically, but I would rather watch paint dry than watch him fight. He's terribly boring for a heavyweight. And both him and Ortiz are Cuban, but boy, are they not from the same school. Luis Ortiz is entertaining. I enjoy watching him fight. Frank Sanchez, I think I'd rather drive over a speed bump over and over, like drive over and then back up and just do that 80 times. I think I'd rather do that than watch Frank Sanchez fight. Also on this card, Jonathan Rice beat Michael Kofi again. At one point, Michael Coffey, a lot of people are looking at him as a potential a guy to keep an eye on in the heavyweight division. Not anymore, man. Not anymore. Jonathan Rice, what do you guys think about him versus Deontay Wilder? Should Deontay want to come back for a fight, let's say a farewell fight in his hometown of Alabama, or maybe I don't know if he's from Birmingham. I know he's from Tuscaloosa. So, but the only city in Alabama is Birmingham, right? So if they did it in Birmingham, where I think he's fought before, Deontay Wilder and Jonathan Rice, how's that for matchmaking? I think that should be fun. And then the most impressive win on this card was the lightweight kid, Frank Martin, proving the 15-0, 11 knockouts, TKO 4 win over Romero Duno. And this was the prelims that were aired on Fox before the pay-per-view. So I just answered my own question from earlier when I couldn't remember if this was Fox or Showtime. Well, there, I just answered my own question. But Martin, originally from Detroit, now fights out of Indianapolis. 2016 Golden Gloves champ at 141. Here's the thing, though. I don't want to get too excited, okay? I want to give Martin his credit. He stole the show. He owned the night. He was the most impressive fighter on both the prelims and the pay-per-view card. However, Romero Duno, he has been stopped in 2 of his last 5 bouts. Ryan Garcia iced this kid with 1 punch in the first round of their fight in 2019. The 3 wins he's had in between that Ryan Garcia loss and this loss to Martin were against very, very poor opposition. On BoxRec, they were like 1-star opponents, okay? So let's keep this in perspective. Let's not jump the gun here. We're going to keep an eye on Frank Martin. He's interesting, but let's not get too crazy about this win over Romero Duno. And then last Saturday, January 7th, there was a ShowBox card from Orlando, Florida. And Dominican Republic native Luis Reynaldo Nunez improved to 16-0 with a TKO 10 win over Puerto Rico's Carlos Arrieta. This is a 10-round featherweight fight, and Arrieta from Puerto Rico. So you had Dominican Republic versus Puerto Rico in the main. Okay, that is it with the review. Let's jump into the preview real quick. And then if you guys want to jump on the phones, go ahead and call in now. And let's review this fight card. Saturday, January 15th, Top Rank on ESPN at the Turning Stone Resort and Casino in Verona, New York. Not too far from the International Boxing Hall of Fame, which should be renamed the American Boxing Hall of Fame. I really feel that way. It's not that international. It could be much more international and inclusive with the global fight scene. But hey, that's just my opinion. Anyway, Joe Smith Jr., 27-3, 32 years old, 6 feet tall, defending his WBO light heavyweight title against Miami native Steve Geffrard, 18-2, 31 years old, 6'2". So in terms of their age and their size, these guys are comparable. In terms of their level of opposition, night and day difference. I will say this about Geffrard. I do think for a late replacement where they had not even a week, because I think it was over the weekend we found out about Callum Johnson, right? So they had basically not even a week to put this together. So I do think Top Rank, they did a good job finding a replacement opponent and keeping this card afloat. And the thing with Geffrard, I looked him up, read a little bit about him. Trains with Ronnie Shields. That's a good thing, right? Ronnie Shields, one of the best trainers in America. Golden Boy Promotions fighter, began boxing at age 13. He won the 2010 USA National Amateur Championship, also won the Golden Gloves and the PAL, the PAL League that year. So that's pretty impressive stuff as an amateur. He lost his first 2 professional fights and actually was stopped in his first pro fight. However, he's won all 18 since. Sounds good, right? Yes. But if you look at who he's fought in those 18 fights, in fact, really all 20 of his pro fights, very, very weak opposition. I'm talking 1, maybe 2-star opponents on BoxRec, which I think goes up to 4 or 5 stars with their matchups. So he's taking a huge leap in opposition against Smith, who's been in there with just about everybody in the division and won most of them. Even the fights he lost, he was competitive. The only fighter that's like soundly defeated him was Dimitri Bivol. So Smith coming off a close win over Maxim Vlasov last April. That decision was controversial. A lot of people thought that Vlasov may have won that fight. It was very, very close. He was scheduled to come back and fight in late October against Umar Salamov, but that fight was canceled due to him getting COVID. So here is the X factor. Smith is technically coming off of COVID. We've seen fighters come back from COVID, and I think this was before the Kronk variant, right? This was the old school COVID, which is a lot stronger. And we've seen fighters come back from COVID that didn't look very good in their first fight back. There's a million examples I could point to. In fact, some of these guys lost. They were upset. But even the guys that won in showcase type matchups, the showcase matchups were very competitive, more competitive than we thought they'd be. And these guys didn't look very good. So will that happen to Smith? Also, last minute replacement. He was preparing for Callum Johnson. Now he's got this guy in there who's a complete unknown factor. So with those X factors being thrown in here, it adds a little spice to the matchup. It's still not the style matchup we wanted between Smith and Johnson, which would have been a lot of fun. But I think, do I expect Smith to go out there and just drill this guy in a round or two? No, I think it's going to be a little more complicated than that. I'm still going to check it out. I'm still interested in this fight. So, and it's really all we got for the majority of this month anyway. I see Nacho in the chat says, laugh my ass off on Frank Sanchez. Yeah, man, Frank just skilled, but boy, is he hard to watch. Whew. I think I'd rather watch two midget fat fucks have sex on the side of the highway than watch Frank Sanchez fight. Yes, I just said that. Okay, let's go to the phones. We have, let's jump to, it looks like 570. I believe this is Thad. What's up, my man? How you doing?
Hey, thanks, Mike. Hey, it's great to have you back. It's great to talk boxing again. But, after the fights over the New Year's, we really missed that Golovkin-Murata fight. Boy, that would have been great right before New Year's. And I have to say this, that fight on New Year's with Ortiz, sure, it was a crappy matchup, and both these guys have zero punch resistance left. I mean, both guys are shot to shit. Mm-hmm. But that's great seeing boxing on a holiday.
Yes.
And the lead up to New Year's with that card with Golovkin, I was looking forward to that. That would have been awesome because nobody really does anything on the holidays. You don't have much going on. It's a great time to really watch boxing. And I think that, promoters should be onto something there. Get on the holiday bandwagon and show some fights because you really don't have a lot going on, besides college football.
Yeah,
so,
I agree. I thought it was a good idea. It just should have been on regular Fox.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we saw the results. Two guys are shot, shot fighters. Yeah, it's going to make a good fight. But I mean, come on, paying money for that? That's nuts. And here's something I want to talk about, real quick about pay-per-view. With the ring decks that happen in boxing, why can't there be a fee that's taken out like the sanctioning bodies? Like, for instance, if they want to do something right by boxing, how about putting aside 5% of your sanctioning fees into a general slush fund that no one can tap into unless there's a fighter who happens to succumb to injuries and or is debilitated, and a portion of that money goes to families, of the fighter. Maybe give some incentive for boxing fans to buy a fight instead of, watching it with Fire Stick. So that's just something I'd like to put out there. Maybe Ring Magazine could kind of, put an article out there or whatever and put some pressure on these sanctioning bodies because they're making a killing with all these stupid belts that they have clogging up the reservoirs in boxing. So here's something I spoke on before with Janabek being the mandatory for Andrade, and Andrade is now pioneering to move up to 68 for a interim championship belt again versus Zach Parker, who Parker really hasn't had a name fight. He's not the greatest of fighters. He's not Janabek. But we have Andrade. Looks like he's skipping out on his mandatory. Mm-hmm. And you know what? From a business standpoint, I have no problem with that. Okay? But I do have a problem with the fact that when he was crying to everybody about nobody wanting to fight him, and he's his boogeyman, that guy's a hypocrite. He is a stone cold hypocrite. If he actually fought Janabek, I would give the guy credit, win or lose.
Right.
But it seems that he's not going to go that route. Now, it could change, and I'll eat my words because I've been wrong. But it looks like he's going to skip out on that fight, which would be a great prove-it fight versus a guy that just stopped Brandt and Endo, two fighters who had better resumes than anyone Andrade's ever fought. So I want to ask you your opinion on that with him skipping out on his mandatory and what it looks like he's doing.
I completely agree with you, man. I mean, now let me say this. If somehow by miracle, Andrade was able to negotiate a fight with Canelo Alvarez next, okay, no interim bullshit, went right to it, then I would totally understand because he's going to make an amazing amount of money and he's going to fight the top guy. But if he's going to skip out on the mandatory to fight for some interim shit belt at 68 to get in line for Canelo, yeah, dude, that's just nonsense. Yeah.
Canelo already told him to his face that he's a terrible fighter in the, that press conference. He told him to his face.
Was that the Plant fight? I think it was,
no, it was the Billy Joe Saunders.
Oh yeah, he was like, get the fuck out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here, man. Yeah. Yeah. That was great, man.
That was the first time I heard Canelo speak English. I was like, man, that's great. I wish he did more. But yeah, he's conning everybody. You know, if you want to make a name for yourself, you want to force a guy's hand, you corner him and you fight the best and you prove that you're the best, like Marvin Hagler did when he fought all those Philly fighters and, he made his way up the ranks. But Andrade, he wants the entitlement route. He wants the easy road. And we're seeing it. So for all you Andrade fans, I know there's not probably a lot from your network, but the LDBC, well, ball's in your court now. Your guy's running. He's running. He's yellow. So that's my opinion on that. And one other thing I want to ask you. ESPN just came out with their pound for pound list. It was before, they put it out before the Beterbiev fight, and he definitely probably will be at it when they vote next time. But they have Tank Davis tied for 10th for a pound for pound list. This is ESPN. This isn't a Mickey Mouse outlet. Granted, they may be Mickey Mouse as far as what their attitude is in social and political views, but that's a travesty to boxing to have Tank Davis, a guy who's fighting more or less exhibitions, handpicking fighters from all different weight classes, okay, and avoiding the best fighters, not even fighting for real title belts, to be included in a top 10 pound for pound list. And one guy who knows better, or there's three, Tim Bradley, Andre Ward, and Teddy Atlas, for voting this guy on a pound for pound list. How dare you? Okay. I would expect that from Andre Ward. Okay. He's got his political affiliations with Jay-Z. We all know that. But Teddy Atlas, what in the hell happened to you? Where did you, get so stupid all of a sudden? I can't believe that they're going to sully a list. Okay. That Ring Magazine concocted in the early 80s. And say a guy like Tank Davis deserves to be on a pound for pound list. Give me a break. We should start naming pound for pound something else. It should be completely changed from here on out, because it's a total joke. Okay, it's an insult to boxing. And if you have this going on where guys get entitlement, a participation award, I might say, when you're not fighting the best and skirting, boxing and the fans by fighting dreadful competition, and you're getting lauded, then that's going to motivate more people to do the same. And we can't have that because it's bad enough already. So I'd like to hear your opinion on that, and I'm gonna take off. And thanks for taking my call.
All right, thanks, Thad.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. ESPN, they are not a sports news platform. They ceased being that a while ago. And I understand that the E stands for entertainment, right? The E in ESPN. I get that. It's always been an entertainment focus. Sports is entertainment. But I think back to the ESPN of the 90s and even the early 2000s, it wasn't 10% as political as it is now. And it's not just the political woke stuff and all that drives me nuts. You guys know how I feel about that crap. But it's the popularity contest stuff, because they're when you're a platform that big and you overpay people. I mean, they pay people 7 figures at that network to talk about football, to talk about basketball. They have all these stupid mundane shows that they do all day long, where it's just, it's an old crotchety white guy and a couple young hip black guys and a really hot girl talking about whatever sport. And it's just hot take after hot take. Right. And a nerdy white guy goes, "Oh, you guys are crazy." And they all make fun of them. They just want something that's going to be tweetable. They want a little video clip that's going to go viral. Right. That's all they're doing. And I think that having Gervonta Davis on their pound for pound list is kind of part of that. Because they probably have a couple other fighters on there I wouldn't have on my top 10. It's crazy. Everyone, if your pound for pound list is the top 10 most engaging or exciting fighters to watch, okay, maybe you can make an argument for Tank. He's fighting B and C level opposition, but most of the time, he didn't in his last fight, but most of the time he blasts them out of there with these exciting knockouts. And his, GIFs and JPEGs of his knockouts go viral on Twitter for a day, a few hours of a day. So fine. But I think what that is more or less of ESPN trying to tap into a certain community that Tank Davis's niche audience is tied to the hip hop community and sectors of the entertainment industry, particularly in Atlanta. And they're trying to tap into that and hold on to that, because that's revenue for ESPN. That's all that shit is. Nobody can deny. Nobody can argue that Gervonta Davis is among the top 10 most accomplished fighters in the world right now. You can't argue that point, because it's just not true. It's just not true. It's just crazy that anybody would have him rated in their top 10 as far as most accomplished fighters in the sport. Teddy Atlas I like Teddy. I really do. And I respect all the work he's done in boxing, but he figured out something a couple years ago when he left ESPN as a commentator and started doing this podcast where he talks about UFC, and now he's really getting into that world and stuff. A lot of old former boxer guys are starting to kind of get into that world where they can still get some juice. But he's kind of figured out how to tap into that clickbait type of thing. And that's what Teddy does. So all respect to him, but that's just what he's doing right now. Trey in the chat says, "Big college football game tonight, Mike." Yes. And I'll watch it. Now, I'm not a huge college football guy, and I'm really mad at Georgia for beating the shit out of the Michigan Wolverines. I watched that game with my family while we were all chilling at my sister's house for the holidays. And growing up, we were Michigan Wolverine fans. When we watched the Michigan versus Michigan State game every year, we're always Wolverines, Michigan. Although in basketball, sometimes I go Michigan State. I was weird. I was like Michigan State for basketball, Michigan for football. But anyway, Georgia beat the living shit out of them. And I live in Georgia now, so I'm going to root for Georgia tonight, even though I was mad at them a couple weeks ago. But they're saying that Georgia's going to lose tonight. That's the odds, right? Either way, I'm going to check it out. Trey. All right, back to the phones we go. Looks like we got an LA caller on. Let's see. 818, what's up? You're on the show.
Hey, Mike, it's Mike. I wanted to get your opinion on Ugas and Spence, because I've heard it's being close to finalized. Reading on Twitter, ESPN, their ringside thing, and I can see this being very high risk for Spence. I mean, coming off the eye injury, of course. I still have him by 10th, 11th round stoppage, but Ugas is very game. He's very, very game. I can't count him out. I mean, I have to pick Spence by, I would say, a thin margin, very thin margin. But I mean, if Ugas wins, I could see this, this whole Spence Crawford thing, the trains derail on it. What would have, should have been now, is not going to happen. So I wanted your opinion, how that fight would go. Again, Ugas being very game. He gave Porter a really, really tough match. And, it was close, but I still thought Porter won that one. Again, I just want to get your opinion on that. And, yeah.
Yeah, so that fight's going to happen. I've been telling everybody since last year that fight's going to happen. It makes sense, it's to PBC's defense. It makes sense for them to do this because this unifies 3 of the 4 belts at welterweight. And why wouldn't you do that if you have that option before putting Spence in there against Crawford? Wait him out even, another year if you can, and put him in there with Ugas first. Here's the thing about Ugas. He has lost 4 times, okay? But he's never been stopped. I'm looking here. 3 of his losses were split decisions. The only fight that he lost decisively, clearly, is when he fought Amir Imam when he was an undefeated prospect.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody really got excited about Imam. So all of his fights have been close that he's lost, man. He's never been hurt. And I tend to think that Errol Spence's power is overrated. And I've actually been told that by guys who have sparred with him and other welterweights, that his power is not that explosive. It's more of an accumulative kind of power. So, the thing about Ugas, he's experienced, he's tall, he's long. I think that fight's going the distance. Now, can Ugas win a decision against Spence? No, I don't think so.
So yeah, my last question I wanted to ask was about women's boxing being put on notice now. Serrano versus Taylor. This fight's probably going to happen. I wanted to ask you: is this the fight? Is this the fight that puts women boxing on notice, or do we wait for a couple more of these super fights for women's boxing to be gain traction for more audience, more viewers, and whatnot? I wanted to get your opinion on that.
I think every time that you get a matchup like this, it's going to draw more fans to women's boxing. So I agree with you that Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano are probably going to fight this year. I think the winner of that fight is the undisputed consensus pound for pound #1 female fighter in the world. I don't care what Clarissa Shields fans have to say. And I do think it's going to be a big event for women's boxing. Now, does this mean that suddenly women's boxing is going to be on par with men's boxing? No. You have to have fights like that consistently enough to get people interested. So there's just not enough talent there yet. I will say though, man, I look at some of the amateur fights. I look at some of the girls coming up, particularly at 140 and below, 147 and below, and there's more and more talent coming. I mean, if women's boxing is here to stay and it is going to continue to grow, and I can tell you this also, because I talk to people that are heavily involved in the American amateur system. There are more and more promoters. And when I say promoter, I'm talking about like small regional club level promoters that are looking at putting women on their cards now than ever before. And there are amateur tournaments and events that are catered specifically to women's boxing now. So you're going to see 2 elements of the American amateur system continue to grow: women's boxing and masters boxing. Those 2 sectors of the American amateur system are going to continue to grow in the next 10, 20 years.
Well, that's all the questions I had, Mike. I appreciate it. It's great talking to you, and I keep watching your show. So take care and have a happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you, brother. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I think Spence Ugas, on the surface, I think a lot of people look at that and they think, Spence is just a younger, more explosive fighter and all these things. Yeah, but, Ugas has never been stopped. He has been hurt. Sam in the chat says Ugas almost lost to Delorme and he got hurt against Ray Robinson. Okay, sure. But, you're going to have off nights. I think that I would expect the best version of Ugas in that fight against Spence. And I think that he'd have enough to probably last the distance. If Spence could get him out of there late, it wouldn't shock me. But I think that's a highly competitive fight. And you guys got to remember, I think it's 3 years. It might be 2 years. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it's either over the last 2 or 3 years, Spence has only fought once. And I'm thinking, I really want to say it's over the last 3 years, because I think after the Porter fight, he had the accident, right? He didn't fight for a whole year until he fought Danny Garcia. And then he was supposed to fight Pacquiao last year, but of course the eye injury. So what is that? 2020, 2021. So, okay, it's a little over 2 years. He's only fought once, man. And so he hasn't been the most active guy. Ugas has. He's coming off that fight with Pacquiao where he fought well, he won. So he's got to be beaming with confidence at this point. I like that matchup. Would I rather see Crawford and Spence fight? Yeah, but we all know that shit ain't happening right away. I will say this. If, let's say, Spence beats Ugas, there is no other fight he can fight after that than Terrence Crawford. So he's going to fight Ugas in the first half of this year. If he wins that fight, no more excuses. The fight between Spence and Crawford has to happen the second half of 2022. If it doesn't happen, it's a flat out duck. I don't want to hear nothing about no damn purse splits or any of this bullshit. There's no other fight at that point. There's just no other fight. Pacquiao's retired and he's coming off a loss anyway. Don't give me that Keith Thurman bullshit. Like stop. It's got to be Crawford if he gets past Ugas. All right, guys, we have no more calls on the line, and we have talked about pretty much everything going on right now. So we'll have a show on my channel Friday. All right, so the Friday wrap-up is back this Friday at 5 o'clock. I'll see you guys then. In the meantime, remember, check out KronkSports.com. If you buy any of their gear, use Montero, the discount code Montero to save 10%. All the proceeds go to the kids development program there, which is freaking awesome. All right, guys, I appreciate it. It's great to be back. Happy New Year. I'll see you at the fights. Peace.